Welcome to episode 3 of Project TERRYCADE. Woo! I need to finish any cutting and slotting needed on the parts before assembly. It's easier and less messy to do these now. First on the list is the T-moulding slots. I have a 2.15mm slot cutter that I bought years ago. Arcadeworld.com do similar sizes, although they are not cheap. Routing is messy and I don't have a dust collector in my workshop, so I like to do this out in the fresh air. You should always wear a mask when you do this, especially with MDF. The glue has really nasty chemicals that are aerosolized. Is that a word? When you hit it with a fast spinning power tool, you don't want to breathe that in. Check your bit is perfectly centered on a piece of scrap. The marquee top is the first victim, just a slot along one edge. You should really clamp the piece down when you do this. Don't follow my lazy example. What I have not realised here is that the nut on the end of the slot cutter is actually going to cause me a problem in a second. Here we have the control panel, again a single slot, and wait for the big mistake. For some reason I decided to put this further back on the workbench, which will get in the way. When I feel the nut hit the workbench, I pull the tool away worrying that something is wrong, and then it is wrong. Whoops. Well, that's ruined. The side panels have the battens on the other side, so there is room for the slot cutter on these. Around complicated bits like this outside curve, I keep pressure on the base plate with one hand to stop the router tipping and ruining a lot of hard work. My garden is not exactly a bowling green. So I needed to cut a new back bottom section to accommodate the power supply switch and the speaker control module. As the control panel would need to be recut, I decided to salvage the good part to make the new back bottom. It's already the correct width, so I just need to cut off the bad edge and cut it to size. I might keep this bit to remind me I can be pretty stupid. Now I need to cut a new control panel from this fresh MDF. I use the recently cut back bottom panel as a guide for the width. The control panel has a bevel on the back edge that rests against the bottom of the bezel. You can almost see the cogs slipping as I try to work out the angle I need. Perfect. All that brain power is wasted on me. And the slot cut without making a mess of it this time. Next, one of the most complicated parts of this build, the bezel. First job is to cut out an area the same size as the screen. I've carefully marked this out already. I drill out a starter hole in 2 corners with a backing board to prevent breakthrough, and then cut around using a jigsaw. I'm staying a few millimeters away from the line. Jigsaws are not very accurate and this needs to be perfect. I'm using the old back bottom panel as a straight edge. I use double-sided tape to stick right along the line I want to cut. This is a pattern bit, one of the most handy tools you can get. With one of these and a jigsaw you can make any cut perfect. The bearing runs along the straight edge and the cutter removes anything up to that edge. Don't try to take off too much in one go, especially with a small palm router like this. I'm keeping away from the corners for now, they are easier to finesse with a hand file.
I just can't do it, Captain. I don't have the power.
On the front side, I need to round over the edges to prevent them being damaged too easily. I'll give this edge a light sanding before painting it to make it blend in. The monitor needs to be recessed into the back of the bezel to bring the screen as close as possible to the surface. As this isn't my monitor and it's also brand new, I'm reluctant to tear the plastic case off it. Instead, I decided to make the recess as deep as I dared. MDF is cheaper to replace. I measure the bezel on the monitor and mark that line around the hole. Now, using a straight bit in my router, I begin to cut the recess. I'm taking small cuts and working my way around. Along the bottom edge here, I've stuck a guide so that this edge is perfect. This means that the monitor will be in exactly the right place. Along the sides, I freehand up and over the line. it isn't so important on the sides, as the monitor can be adjusted and then fixed in place later. I'm trying to keep the dust from building up so that the router base plate sits flat against the wood. Good job I have a fast charger. Cutting deeper, this goes faster as the line is already cut all around and the blade tends to ride along the edge that I've already cut. Will it fit? Nope. There's a little bit I missed with the router that needs shaving out with a sharp chisel. This is the front panel under the control panel. It needs 5 holes drilled in it, 2 for the start and select for each player and a hole for the panel mounted USB ports. I used the slag coin template to mark out the distance between the first 2 holes. Next I mark out the position for the control panel holes. There will be a lip on either side of the control panel, so I need to make sure it isn't too close to the stick on the left or the buttons on the player 2 side. Somewhere on the floor I'm centre punching holes and forgot the camera. As I'd removed so much material from the bezel, I thought it would be a good idea to give that part a little reinforcement. I smeared PVA all around it and allowed it to dry. The outside edge gets the same treatment. This will help when I come to smooth this off with sandpaper later. Another messy day's work ahead. Lots of holes need drilling. First up, the control panel. All the holes are drilled, with a pilot hole first to keep the larger spade bit straight. I use a 28mm spade bit. A Forstner bit would be my preference, but I don't have one this size. A spade bit does just fine though. I drill about halfway down and then flip the board over and drill part way from the other side. A slower drill speed helps with the spade bit and MDF. To finish, I flip the board over once more and remove the final layer. The same for the front control panel for the start and select buttons. The hole in the centre for the USB ports is 30mm and I have a Forstner bit for that. No pilot hole necessary and I can drill straight through from one side. The speaker holes in the bezel need cutting out. These are much larger and need yet another type of bit, this time a hole cutter. These hate MDF. The glue clogs up the teeth and it ends up burning. I try to keep as much dust as possible away from the groove. And once again we return to the back bottom panel. I need a hole for the power socket and the speaker volume control. Now I need to make this fit. Before removing too much material from the back, I try to get the hole as close to the line as possible with files. I do like a snug fit. That's the power socket done. I route out the back of the speaker control hole. This will be hot glued in place later. Once my hairy arm gets out of the way, you will see me cutting a recess in the top and bottom marquee boards for the plexiglass to sit in. The T-moulding will hold it in place. Woodwork is easy, camera work not so much. Getting closer to assembly now. A few missing holes needed and then I will start putting this together. See you on the next one.